I'm really excited that you joined and decided to be a part of this, because I think your experience and your journey, especially you being an entrepreneur, especially you homeschooling your son, brings so much to the table. So I know why
Mhm.
that. So let's just backtrack a little bit. Who are you? Tell me about yourself.
Okay, my name is Alana Daniels. What don't I do is the true question. I am a mother, I am a full-time entrepreneur, and I am here to help many, many people make millions. I am a millionaire. I believe everyone that I encounter has the ability to be a millionaire if they really believe. So that's the gist of me. I do a lot of different things. I am a health coach, a wealth coach. I am a financial analyst in the Forex market, as well as binary options, and full-time hustler. I just go out, I get it. I find things that I like to get my hands in and get my hands involved in. And I'm super blessed to be able to have the flexibility to kind of have built this lifestyle where I do what I want and say how I feel to a certain degree. As a full-time entrepreneur now, for sure.
So you're saying entrepreneur, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you define entrepreneur? How do you define that?
So for me, it's just of entrepreneurship is taking something and making it better, or an entrepreneur, should I say, someone who is able to take an idea, manifest it, and make it better, or make something more useful for the world to be able to capitalize on. And that's kind of what I consider myself to be doing as well. Someone who just makes the world a better place by adding the little things that I can do. What's up, Pop? You want to say hey?
Hey.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Corey. Oh, look at my eyes. As soon as he came
on. But yeah, to me, that's what entrepreneurs do. We make the world a well-functioning place, whether it is making something a little bit better, whether it's finding new ideas, whether it's creating new inventions. We are just constantly, hey, baby. That's what we do. We make stuff happen.
Okay,
right,
so it's
Mommy's
like
gonna do an interview real quick, and then we're gonna chat in a little bit, okay?
Chat?
We're gonna talk in a little bit after I finish this, okay? So we'll play after I'm done, okay? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I think him coming in a perfect example of what we're gonna be getting today.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he came in right on cue, I swear. So
yeah, and then here comes the dog back afterwards. Hold on one second. It's like always the Corey and Kiva show. That's what I call it here.
The Corey and Kiva show. That's freaking funny. Oh, y'all.
So yeah. Did that answer your question?
Yeah. So I'm just gonna summarize what I got off of what you said. It's basically taking something and using it to make the world a better place, but in your own way.
Yeah, in a sense. Yeah.
What made you want to become an entrepreneur?
I'm crazy. No, I'm just kidding. I honestly feel like I've just always had this spirit of entrepreneurship in me ever since I can go back to maybe like Corey's age, actually, 6 and 7 years old. We used to go to my grandparents' house pretty frequently in Tallahassee, Florida, and I would always try to find new ways to make money. Now, we all know you go to grandparents' house, your grandparents are going to hand you a little bit of money, but my mindset was always like, okay, going to grandma's house, I know she's going to give me money at the end of the trip, but how can I get money and in the beginning or in the middle? So I would find resources throughout the house, whether it's like old fabric in her house or just finding a good space. And I'm like, okay, we're doing a fashion show tonight, guys. I'm charging $7 to get into the fashion show. Me, my brother, and my homegirl are going to be walking in the fashion show. Purchase your tickets, And this is at 7 years old. So I didn't necessarily know at the time, oh, this is entrepreneurship, but I would find that no matter where I went, that spirit just kind of followed me. Another example, I was at business camp where we were like having to make perfumes and design it and all of these different things. I've just had the blessing of being able to see like you are an entrepreneur in many different ways. Like we won business camp that year. And yeah, so I didn't choose this life. This life chose me.
Yeah, because it started at such a young age for you. And even though you knew that money was coming towards you, you were like, nah, I'm not going to wait for that. I'm going to make opportunities to gain more. And that's
Yeah.
what you still do in your life right now, is you constantly are looking for more ways to open up income and to help others. Because that's what you said initially. For you, through me getting to know you, I've gained to know that it's not all about money for you. Even though I feel like that's a big push for you to do what you do, but overall, you really truly just want to help people. So when you make that decision to say, I'm really gonna call myself an entrepreneur, I'm really gonna go full throttle with this, do you feel like you got support? Because I feel like people tend to, especially like the older generations, tend to be like, no, you gotta have money saved. What are you doing? Especially you being a mom. How did that look to make that transition for you?
It was definitely, I was supported, but it would be like what I would call like halfway supported, kind of like, okay, we support you, we believe in you, we think this is a little crazy, and why don't you, you know, your family in particular, that's who I would create as my support system, not necessarily my friends. My friends were always like, yeah, go, go, go. But of course the naysayers, like you said, are going to be a little bit older and normally come from the older generations in your family. So I found that people supported my journey of entrepreneurship, but they had their idea of what it should look like in their opinion. So like, I can do hair. And so someone's like, oh, well, you should go to school for hair and then be an entrepreneur from there. Or just everybody had their own idea of what it should look like on me. And I had to get to that point where I'm like, okay, yeah, there's a lot of things that I'm good at. There's a lot of things that I could do, but I really had to begin to ask God, where do my gifts lie? Where are my treasures? And how is it that I'm going to be able to capitalize on all the gifts that you have given me? Being that I am so well versed at many things, how can I hone in on something to really be able to call your people up and use my gifts? Basically, I have lots of talents, but I needed God to hone in on what direction I needed to go in order to really impact his people and really make a lifelong difference. So yes, family was kind of supportive, kind of not, but I am super grateful because they were never completely like, nah, this is, I mean, they thought it, and I knew they thought it, and I felt it sometimes too, but they've been pretty supportive.
I like that you said that you have so many talents and gifts, but you have to ask God to guide you on what it was exactly that you wanted to use in order to give back to the community and to be able to really maximize the profit off of what you're doing. And I like that because a lot of times people are scared of being entrepreneurs because they don't even know what to do.
Right. Yeah, I definitely say, I mean, and even me, entrepreneurship from 7 on to 100, whatever, you know, whatever age I make it to, it's constantly going to be ebbs and flow. It's constantly going to be being able to adapt to change, because entrepreneurship, even now, we've seen it flip in less than a year. You know, what was working for entrepreneurship in January is not the same thing that's working for entrepreneurship now. But I think that's also the thing that I love about it is I'm the type of person who likes to constantly evolve and likes to constant switch up and change. So I enjoy it. And then yes, for me, it was very much about not just doing something that created good income, because just because it created good income doesn't mean it's good for your mental health, doesn't mean it's good for your physical health. It doesn't mean it's necessarily, all money ain't good money. Let's put it that way.
I hope y'all wrote that one down because that was a good tip right there. How long an entrepreneur?
Officially, I would say 2.5 going on 3 years. That is when I completely separated from my corporate fitness job that was kind of backing me financially.
Okay, so it's been about 2 to 3 years. You've been an entrepreneur, and recently you've made the decision to homeschool your son. Right? So what influenced you to take this route?
I think it was very easy for me to see that the system was not necessarily working for my child. Um, and I could even take it a step back. Like, in life, you are kind of constant. You're constantly evolving, but you kind of keep these same themes and these ideas. So I know before I got pregnant with Corey, I always imagined having like an unschooling, unlearning type environment, because for me, I enjoyed school, but I at the same time felt like it was a big gap in wasting a lot of time, because the things for me that stuck in life were when I went out and when I traveled and when I went out and experienced. So although I was able to make good grades in school, a lot of it was just not necessarily cultivating my creativity. It wasn't necessarily cultivating how to actually learn and the creative thinking process. It was just copy paste, and memorization. So it's kind of like making it through school. I got to college and was still like, I'm not even sure if I'm prepared for this, which is a scary thing to do, go through so many years of school and not feel prepared, because you're not necessarily being taught how to think. You're just being taught how to memorize. You're just being taught how to copy and paste and regurgitate information that is given to you instead of being a free thinker. So fast forward, Corey growing up, let's say age, I put him in daycare at 1 year old. So 1 through 4 or 5, whatever year he went to kindergarten, he was like on it. He knew how to spell his name. He knew how to write. He could do so many great things at such a young age. But it's like, as soon as I put him in the system and he transitioned from like private in-home daycare to public school system, I kind of saw that my child was changing. And it was almost very scary as a parent, because it almost felt like he was regressing, and his confidence level was just going down, 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 down. And so that first year alone was super rough. And then making the transition behavior wise, like when you go from a small 6 children daycare to now you're in public school, it's 30 something 5-year-olds in one classroom, off the chain, jumping, they were here in preschool and all of that. It can throw a kid into shock, honestly. And we were definitely dealing with some behavioral issues, but because the class sizes are so big, nobody could really pinpoint exactly how it was happening. Like, it would be like, oh, there was an incident that happened today at school. And I'm like, okay, well, what happened? And it's like, oh, well, Corey got into it with a student. And I'm like, well, did the student say something to Corey? Because, I just need more context. And because the system and because the school system crams these kids into these little classrooms with one teacher, I could see how it was very hard for them to keep up with what was going on. So after kindergarten, first grade came, and I was like, okay, maybe it'll be better in a sense, but it didn't necessarily get better. The behavior started to scare me. It started to get to the point where I'm like, okay, is he possibly ADHD? Is he high functioning autistic? I could not pinpoint it. And that, as a mother, is very, very scary, almost traumatizing. I'm about to cry right now, because it's like, I would be at work and I'm hustling, because as a single mom, I'm the provider and everything. So I'm hustling, and then I'm getting these calls like, the Daniels need to come to the school, and the Daniels need to come to the school. So it did get to a point where I was just like, God, I really don't know how I'm supposed to balance both, because this job is making me money, but it's also causing me a lot of mental wear and tear. And on top of that, I feel like my child needs more attention at home, or needs something. I'm so busy out and about making somebody else's company great that I couldn't even pinpoint what it was. Like, the teacher's right, is because everywhere I've taken Corey before school, we haven't had problems. He's the sweetest kid. He's always helping other children. So I was just completely confused, and I knew that I needed something that was going to work better for him. And to me, it was just making the class size a little bit smaller, looking to the options of homeschooling, and allowing I don't want to say allowing him to pick his curriculum, but children are very intelligent and they know what they like. A lot of times it's us trying to derail the child from their creativity and their originality into what the system considers right. But I've met so many millionaires that did not take that route. And I think that was another big thing for me is why I chose to homeschool, because I know Beyonce don't have no GED or anything like that. The first millionaire I ever physically met was 23 years old, and he dropped out of school when he was 12 or 13. And it's like they hone in on 1 to 2 crafts and they master it. So I figured if we could take that route, we could figure out what he likes and begin to master what it is that God has gifted him with. It wouldn't be so much trial and error of not fitting into the status quo, not having to gain perfection in this idealistic society that doesn't exist, you know? Yeah.
So
kind of like the general.
A lot influenced this decision, and it sounds like it wasn't something that necessarily happened like overnight. And then behavior started trying to spike up, and you're trying to balance your work life, which is demanding as hell, because they don't really, employers rarely give a fuck about what's going on with you and your family. They just want you to be there on time, and they don't give about what happens afterwards. So I can only imagine the
Right.
you know, that fall onto you. And then he's trying to adjust to this new like classroom, and then it's a lot for a kid too. And I don't think we really look at it from their perspective. But it sounds like you did that. So I want to make a clear distinction, because you know we're in a very digital world right now, hence why we're doing this on social media, right? It's very digital. And even the schools have gone digitally, but they're still part of like the education system. But technically, they're learning from home. The digital learning that's going on and still being a part of the public school system compared to what you and Corey are currently doing?
We don't follow the curriculum necessarily of standard state. I don't want to say testing. We do standardized testing, but we just don't follow standard state curriculum. So whereas once again, even though they're online, we did like a week of online learning in the public school system, because I was still at that, like, okay, am I making the right decision? Well, since he's registered, let me just go ahead and check real quick. And one, it was a mess because you could tell that no one was really prepared for this. You got kids all on the Zoom, like, who like fried chicken? Who like barbecue chicken? Oh, you nasty. And like the teacher's trying to control, the kids aren't on mute. And then it still came down to like, you got this big paragraph of just words that these kids don't really care about. You're telling them to read it. You're telling them to recite it back to you. To me, that's not learning. And that's definitely not going to cultivate Corey at the rate he needs to be cultivated. Once again, I have been blessed to be able to pay attention to my child while still working my full-time job. And I know that he's a natural born leader. And I also, I am a natural born leader. So in school, it gets very frustrating because they want to fit you into a box. And when you can't fit into that box, it makes your self-worth go down, and it makes you feel like, well, dang, why can't I get in this small box? But it's you're not a box, you're a circle. You're exuding positive energy and all of that. So to me, even with digital learning, it's still the same curriculum of shove this into their brains and see what they can regurgitate. And to me, it definitely, school preps you for being somebody's worker. School preps you for being able to kind of follow commands. To me, it's more about that than it is the learning. It's about the teaching and programming the child on what it is that we want you to think as you grow up, instead of really cultivating that free thought. So a day in unschooling with us, like, we have our curriculum that I go over with Mr. Wright, because it's not just me homeschooling. I do have he's his teacher. You could call him a tutor, you could call him whatever, but he goes into a facility 3 days a week and he's with me 2 days a week. So let's say we start the music off with meditation and a little bit of music, he's able to wake up, so he's not just feeling like up and go to school and eat. And so systemize, I guess is the best way to put it. But then I learn what it is that's going to be helpful for him in society and what he wants to learn. So today we learned about money. We learned about coins. We learned what money can do for you. You like games, you want to buy games. This is how you buy games and things like that. So just it's more practical teaching, things that these kids are actually going to use when they grow up, instead of just cramming information that's going to be deleted and it was just a waste. And definitely allowing them to not necessarily lead the program, because you definitely have to still have your curriculum. You definitely want their math and their science to be off the chain by the time they reach fourth grade. But just allowing them to make the decision so they want to do it. Corey will be excited to show me when he gets 90s on his math test, instead of it feeling like, do this math, oh, you got it all wrong. Like, he can go at his own pace now. And I think he appreciates that. And I've been able to see his confidence be restored in that. So
I honestly commend you for that, because that's a hard decision to make, because of what is required of homeschooling requires more of you to be, you're naturally, as his mother, you're a natural teacher, but you're really putting on that teacher hat to teach him this curriculum. So I commend you for giving him that space to be creative, to be his own person. I absolutely agree with you. And this is why a lot of kids have difficult time paying attention in class and focusing, because they can't relate to the material. And there's a disconnect there. And the teacher has, again, so many students in the classroom. So it's kind of hard for that teacher to hone in on that one student's skill set. Do you get what I mean? I feel like it takes a really good teacher to even pay attention to then want to cultivate whatever skills and strengths they see in that student.
Right.
But easy for kids to get lost in the sauce. Where me, I'm in my 20s right now, and I think of me being homeschooled, I think I would have had more of an opportunity that you're giving Corey to explore what is it that I'm supposed to be doing here, as opposed to now trying to discover that now at
29.
Say that again.
I said at 29. That's the thing. We're systemizing, then we get out of college, we did everything we were supposed to do, and you're like, wait, do I even like this? How did I even come up with this decision to take this route? You know? So yeah, that's pretty much why we decided to do it. Yeah.
I like it. I love it. I'm actually motivated by it.
And like I said, most of the millionaires that I have physically met, that was the most inspiring thing, was when I met the 23-year-old millionaire. I may have been like 22 or something like that, and he just told us his story. He dropped out, he focused on bikes and cycling, and he would just cycle and flip bikes, and then that turned into becoming a professional cyclist, which just evolved, and now it went from flipping bikes to flipping businesses, and bikes was like the $1 million contract in between. Like, he won a race or something like that. So it's not always, once again, the school system isn't teaching you how to be a millionaire. They're not teaching you how to get your millions. They're not teaching you how to build a school system. You know, I want to be able to fund a homeschool system and unschool system, something that's going to cultivate our children on a different level to prepare them for what the world is coming to, because we're evolving. It's not our grandparents' day and age anymore. It's not even our parents. Heck, it's not even our day and age anymore. So
shift quickly. But you said something I want to make sure I touch on. I think it's so important. You said the school system is training us to be workers, hold jobs, and go to college, and then when you get to college, the expectation once you get there obviously is going to be higher, but then you question, like, am I really prepared for this? Even though I just spent fucking 12 years in school, am I
crazy
next level? And a lot of times we're not prepared, and a lot of times that's why we're going into college thinking like, this is what we have to do, we have to go to college, like this is what is pushed on us. That trade schools are not really a thing anymore, which they honestly hold a lot of value, but we tend to look down on them. It's all about the degrees and all that. But it's all training us to do what? Be robots and not really think for ourselves and just be yes, 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 yes. And when you really
Right.
get out, our conversations in school, especially high school, is not about how to pay bills. I mean, unless you take like an accounting class or something like that, but it's not really giving you the skills you need to be successful. And it's not really teaching you how to be your own person. It's teaching you how to go with the system. It's just a system. And then forget about, let's talk about people of color, because that's what we're here to do, right? Bring that up. Let's bring it up.
Right.
Forget about people of color, because that's just a whole pipeline right into the prison system. Even
Period.
the system and you look at how they run school, it's very identical.
The same uniforms, times when you eat, everything. And
there's times when you go out on the yard, that's the same thing as recess. You know what I'm saying? If you get that free time, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
And let alone if you try to group with people, then they say you're a gang or whatever, which is exactly what happens when you're in prison. So what do you feel like? I know we kind of talked about some of the flaws within the public school system, and that's basically them putting you in a box, you not being able to be creative, you not being able to tap into who you are as a creator and an individual. So how do you feel like homeschooling can benefit Black families? There's a lot of benefits with Black families, in particular, homeschooling their kids. But from your experience, what would you say could be beneficial to Black families?
One, just restoring the parent to child relationship. Honestly, we have, I can't speak for the entire community, but I know for me, being able to be with Corey matters to him a lot. And a lot of times we're so caught up in the hustle that we don't think about how it is psychologically affecting our children. Another thing is we are in that day and age where we want everything to be for us, by us, cultivated by us, and we need to get into better habits and better systems of being ready for powers to flip. Meaning, if it were up to us to create the society, if it were up to us to reimagine what life looked like here on earth, being able to take steps towards that and being able to cultivate that. So for me, the homeschooling tutor that we used, look, I mean, everybody know where my son goes to school, but shout out to them. It is a Black owned business. It is a Black male teacher, which our men need other men to look up to. There's only so much that I can do as a woman teaching a man. And I think a lot of our Black males are pacified, underdeveloped, and not reaching their full potential simply because we are not cultivating that Black male leadership in our community. So being able to not just fund things, but being a part of something like that, being a part of saying like, hey, in this community, Corey gets to go to a Black male teacher. I can drop off snacks. I can give to the program, but he's being cultivated in both my house, but also where in ways that he needs to be too, because it's a balance thing and you're going to want both, especially since, you know, I'm in the realm where I'm seeing what it does when men are pacified for too long.
What does it do? Speak on it. What does it do to Black men? Because
I just think that it creates, I don't want to say reverse habits, but I am always very conscious of my son not depending too much on me and still understanding that he is a leader. He is able to take the lead. He is able to not be coddled all the time. A lot of times I would naturally find myself coddling him, and I had to get, you know, he's 7 now, so I'm getting to that age where I'm like, listen, you can get your own ice, you can get your own water, you can do things for yourself. But then there's also, I've noticed a change in his behavior from it being me and Miss Bob to me and Mr. Wright, because Mr. Wright's gonna get him tight.
Miss Bob's the old teacher from
Yeah, Miss Bob is the old teacher. And I mean, like, I can name any Miss Denise, Miss London, Miss, you know, our school system is full of Black females, but our men need other men to look up to, because all they're looking up to is us in our home life, us in school life. you know, if your child isn't necessarily doing anything like an extracurricular that's pushing that, and even then that's not going to be enough. They want to be inspired by other men. They can't say that all the time, or they don't know how to say that, but boys want to be inspired by other boys. And so I think that it helps tremendously when you're able to get not only black to black, but what our society needs. If we need more black male teachers, we need to start paying them more. We need to start cultivating that and creating a system that allows men to want to be teachers, and create that. I think it's very important. I think all teachers should get a pay raise, but I definitely think that having like an elite academy, black male owned school would be good. I think the Wilson Academy is also another private institution here in Lithonia, or the city of Stonecrest, that is renowned for reforming our system. Let's put it that way.
That's another resource, y'all.
Yeah, look, I'm giving out all the gems tonight. And another thing, for us, by us, I hated the fact that my first lesson of identity of being black was taught as slavery. I'll never forget, at 5 years old. Yeah, let's go there. Let's go. 16.
Let's go. We already there.
You know, so it's like at kindergarten, you know, they're teaching us you're slaves. You came to America as slaves. They don't start with you know, the Garden of Eden and then work our way up. We'll talk about the land splitting and how people got different dialects and stuff. They're not going all the way back to the original source. They're starting with, oh, y'all was slaves when y'all came over to America, and then this is how everything evolved. I don't like that. So I think that when we are able to take control of our education, we're able to tell the full truth, the total truth, and not just where American literature and where American history wants you to start. Because unless you were in a fully funded private school, meaning like the government don't really give you anything, we're paying you as the community, you still got to kind of abide by a curriculum. And in that curriculum, they have been taught to teach us slavery above anything, above kings and queens, above, you know, all the gifts that your melanin has. That's where they start. I can't get jiggy with that. So I feel like the more we take ownership, 2020, I'm big on ownership, and going forward, but 2020, I was very big talking about ownership. And I think the minute we begin to take ownership of our children, the way we educate them, the way we cultivate in the community to make sure we're getting the proper things that we need for our community to grow, that's the way that this is going to happen, and going to happen smoothly, in my opinion. Y'all can keep your children in the school system. They'll probably work for my kid. I'm just kidding. I'm joking.
Oh, I love, because what I mentioned earlier was waiting so long, like in my late teens, early 20s, to really find melanated people. And it's a shame that I had to wait that long and go that long. And I'm like, where? And I would question in school, where did why do they only talk about slavery? And they only really bring it up during Black History Month. That's when you get the snippet. Then you start seeing, oh, Martin Luther King was great and he tried to do this. But there's so many, oh my God, that's for the fucking iceberg. And it's really a disservice because we don't know. People that are older still don't know their history because we're not taught it. So let me ask you this question. Do you think we were better off being separated but equal? Because at one point it was, you know, there was two different schools. It was a Black school and a white school. It was separated. And with that, we got like the hand-me-downs from the white schools. Pages was missing from textbooks. And we were like in a shack and all this type of stuff. So do you think that was better, where at least we can kind of cultivate our history and express that to children, versus now where we're in a nicer school, we have nicer books and all this stuff, but that link of who we really are is missing? What are your thoughts on that?
I'm going to say not necessarily. I definitely believe in a for us, by us style community. But I do think that we have to take into account that certain evolution in our community only happens when we go out, get the resource, bring it back type stuff. So that may look like Ruby Bridges going out saying, y'all, they books say this about science, and bringing it back. Because I think that unfortunately we were so far gone by the time segregation was a thing anyway, that we would not have really been able to dig like we do now in terms of finding that knowledge. I'm kind of split-minded on it, because I definitely think that when we started to want to be included in everything that society was saying was good, that did give us a little bit less value in ourselves and our own culture, because we were so we've just been trying to play their game and fit into their game and be in their society and all of that. And I do think that we don't necessarily have to do that. But I do believe in Django Janin. Wait, I said Django Janin, but Django in that jump where you can go and get the resource, free the people, and still come back to your community. Because it's an uneven playing ground, you know, and somebody's got to go and find out what that looks like. How far up are they, you know? So I do believe that desegregating the schools, it was a plus and a negative, just like many things, technology and all other kind of things, you know? Yeah, like.
I'm glad that you got perspective, because I think it's very accurate. And at one point in time, especially like during the civil rights and all this, there were people that were passing as white people, and they would be a part of these elite clubs and stuff, and they would bring back the knowledge, or they would fight and push for Black rights and all this stuff, and then come back to the Black community and be like, this is what's going on.
This was going on. Tell Martin, don't go there this weekend. Like,
yeah,
set them up. Yeah.
I think what you're saying is use it to our advantage, but don't get lost in it and always come back.
Right. Like, go work your job, do what you got to do to bring the check back home to the community. Don't go work your job, spend your check out there, then come back home to the community and be like, dang, y'all, how are we going to get out of this situation? That's what I think we're missing in our society. And though we have done it before, so maybe it's scary generationally for us, that's what I see a lot of other societies doing. They go and they build, they do it in our neighborhoods. We'll have 15 stores owned by, you know, Asians, let's say. Mm-hmm. They're, you know, they got fish shops, wing shops, hair shops, everything. They'll have all these things in our community, but they're not spending a dime on my son's education. I can guarantee you that. They're not paying taxes for books here, you know. They're in Gwinnett. They take our money and they're going straight back over to their community. So I think that that's the thing, is like, yeah, it's okay to indulge in diversity. It's okay to learn different things from different places and different people, because there is all kind of things to be learned in the world. And it doesn't always just come straight from us. However, I think that it is very important to take what you learn and bring it back home. I wouldn't be the millionaire that I am today and the millionaire that I am going to be if I were just going to go over here with the rich people and do what they do and not bring it back home to my people. You know, that's super selfish of me, number one. And number two, the gift for me is being able to elevate us as a people and as a whole.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I like that you said that, because it's not all about it's just about staying true to our and implementing what you're learned through teachers and experiences, and using that to help build and elevate our culture and our experience.
Right. And I mean, we have stuff to give too, but I mean, I just think once, in my opinion, you know, the world was all one, and then Pangea happened. So though we come from different shades, different demographics, different places and terrain, which has caused different reactions, whether it be skin or how we live, how we interpret life, I definitely think, you know, we know where the source comes from, and we know where the power is held. That's not to be mistaken. I just think that in this day and age, if other societies, if other people are doing it and they seem to be getting it right, let's just, let's use what we learned in school, a little copy paste, a little looking over on that test answer and applying it because it's working for them. Why not? And if it don't work for us, find the next route,
Right. So, okay, as a mother, entrepreneur, teacher, because you said that your son goes to his homeschool teacher, twice a week or 3 times, you said?
3 days. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
3,
so,
and then he's twice with me.
Okay, so twice with you. How are you finding a balance? Because people that know that you don't fucking stop. And like you would tell me this when I first met you, and I'm like, okay, I can understand, but no, like you don't fucking stop. Like you'll fucking go to sleep at 3 o'clock in the morning and then wake up at 5 talking about meeting, and you be perky as hell, like like you haven't been up all night. So how
all night? Excellent time management. For one.
That's a answer.
You said what?
That was a real answer, like managing my time.
Yeah, that's the way that it all gets done, to be honest, is understanding when it's burnout time, when I cannot do anymore and I need to rest because my quality is going down, and just having a plan for my time. I really feel like money and time have the same currency value, if not time is greater, obviously. So I just like I map out where my dollars are going, and I say every dollar I have has an assignment. Same thing. Every hour I have in the day that I am able to utilize, it has an assignment. So even if that assignment is, okay, we get out of school at 2 p.m. So from 2 to 4, chill, get off the internet, give Corey your phone, just chill. Making that time to get what needs to get done, to get what has to get done, and then to get what you have to do for your health done as well is very important. So lots of binders and time management stuff, and freaking finding a flow. Honestly, that's the best way I can explain it, is just finding a flow. Every day that I have has kind of like an idea. Today's $1 Million Monday. We're working a 12-hour shift and we're just gonna bang out like a millionaire. Tuesdays we detox, and yeah, time management like a mofo though. I have to give it credit. And the grace of God. God's grace is like sprinkled all over me.
You are so funny. It's like you developed a system that's working for you, and it really comes down to where are you spending your time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I try to know that between, after we have our Millionaires Time meeting at 5, 6 to 7 is kind of my time to get it together. 7, we're up and rolling, rock and rolling with him. To about 2, and of course on the days when he's not with me it looks different, but let's say on the day like today where he is with me, we're up in bed. I'm up out of bed at 7, and going over practical skills. I know that at 2 p.m. I'm off of teacher mode, and now I'm starting to do something, whether it's with Forex or new clients or creating a website. My time is so mapped out. And it's been a practice too. It's not something that I just like woke up with good time management. It's definitely something that it's a skill that you have to learn. But after honing in on the skill and understanding what works for me, I definitely can say I perfected it to $1 million T.
Wow, that's amazing. So you being an entrepreneur, how does that give you, and Ride My Wave alone, definitely, she gives us a thumbs up. She's agreeing with you. So
Hey,
I'm assuming Ride My Wave alone is a woman. But
it's a guy.
Is it? Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's okay. We're sorry. You got the Black Lives Matter thing, so we appreciate you.
Consistency is key, and I couldn't agree more. Because in order for you to even know if the schedule works and time management, all that, you have to be consistent with it. So you being a entrepreneur means that you have complete control over your schedule. How has this given you leverage to then homeschool Corey, even on those 2 days that he's home with you?
So yeah, that's a big one. If you don't have time, you can't give it to your child. If you are selling out your time for a low value, you've already sold it out. So would say that I can't say that I make my own schedule, but being able to be in a position, especially with Forex and financial freedom in that realm, because I pretty much make my money before 5 a.m., 7 a.m. max, I'm able to be present and be fully capable of doing whatever it is that Corey needs from me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's the difference. It's just not having to punch somebody's clock and ask permission. If my child needs something from me, I just have the ability to say, oh, is he acting up? Do I need to come up there? And I'm right up the street. I don't have to drive 45 minutes away, be frantic, be wondering what my job is thinking about of me because my child and some uncontrollable things. Like financial freedom is definitely the biggest blessing that I've found, not just for the finances, but like I said, for the opportunity. I am able to cultivate a healthier family simply because I made the decision to take the jump of entrepreneurship and honing in on that financial freedom journey. And it's not always easy. You know, the first couple months was real scary actually, but you guys have to I did a whole YouTube video on the Start of Millionaires time, so go check that out if you are interested in learning a little bit more about like the scary path, and there'll be more videos. But yeah, that was big for me, is not having to always ask somebody permission for something having to do with my child. And then like corporate, you know, you get strikes for that regardless of how, oh, it's okay, we understand. They're like tallying that. Just like every time he gets in trouble at school, they're tallying that. And just like every time you get in trouble in the public, they're tallying that. So I was just tired of tallies, honestly. I didn't want tallies on my son. I don't want tabs on me. Y'all, you know what? We're just going to go ahead and take things into our own hands. And it's been the most rewarding journey ever, no matter how much I've had to work, how hard I've had to work.
Lifestyle, you really live it, and you live by example. Like, you are the example of what it is like to balance all of these hats that, you know, you're wearing, and still show up. Because nobody could ever tell that you stress or anything, because you always just show up. And you're ready to do that. Like, you really do. I just have to give you your kudos for that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
They say you got to work through it, and I feel like that's what you do. You work through it.
Yeah.
Coming in earlier, you were still able, okay, Corey, I'm going to tend to you, but I'm going to get back to my business and do this live. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So what advice can you give parents that also to shift to entrepreneurship or take control of their child's education? What advice would you give them to make that decision or to support them in that way?
I am a balls to the walls kind of girl. When I have made a decision to jump in the lake, we are just going to run and jump. So the best advice I've ever gotten in entrepreneurship is just start, because it's not going to go how you think it's going to go anyway. And I transfer that to everybody I know. If somebody's like trying to start a business, I'm like, just start, because it's not going to go how you think it's going to go. And it's so true. Like when I started my entrepreneurship journey 2 years ago, I had an idea of what it was going to be, and it's completely different now, but that's life evolving. So I would say when it comes to your entrepreneurship dreams, just go for it. Create 2 to 3 hours, 3 days a week, 3 to 5, if you can manage 5, but definitely starting off small with 3 days a week. 2 to 3 hours a day of self-time. So if that means I work my 9 to 5, I work my 5 to 9 with my kids, and then 9 to 11, I'm going to be up working my me to me. That's what I'm going to do. If I'm going to get up at 5 a.m. and I work my 5 to 8:30 or 7 or whatever, for me, whatever it is, you need to make sure you are putting some type of time into it. And you'll find that the time you put into it will be received tenfold, and the energy you put into it will be received tenfold. So a couple of years ago when I was running on the... Wait, what'd you say?
Did you catch that?
Wait, what'd you say? I missed it.
I said, you're saying the truth. Say it, sis. Say the truth.
Yeah, like preparation is key, you know, so prepare for your millions, and your millions are definitely going to come. But if you don't prepare, if you don't put that time or that energy aside, it can't be attracted to you. That's for entrepreneurship. For homeschooling, I would just say, once again, same mentality, go for it. It's not going to go how you think it's going to go anyway. Do what is best for you. Do what is best for you and your child. Because similar to entrepreneurship, when I was coming up with the idea of homeschooling and everything, I definitely had my grandparents, my mom, everybody looking at me like, homeschooling, you're gonna teach, you gonna teach, you know, everybody had jokes, and I'm like, no, it's not, I mean, I will teach, it's not gonna just be me, but I'm gonna figure this thing out, because it's frustrating the hell out of me that this system that I'm trying to force my child into is not working for either of us. It didn't work for me. Like I said, I went to college thinking I was about to do one thing, kind of completely unprepared, thanks Georgia, school systems, but completely unprepared, not simply because it was bad education, but because they don't necessarily teach you to think. They just teach you to duplicate and act and react. So just start. They have all kind of great programs online. IXL is a great resource of something that you can buy into. I think it's like $19 a month, but it has curriculum for you from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade. There are also some free resources. Yep, so IXL, or I think X is like that in sign language. We're still working on that. But yeah, just do it. Ain't nothing to it but to do it. That's my motto. And if it doesn't work, then get out the water and try again, you know? I should have probably gone into tech. I have a very techie, break it and fix it fast mentality, but that's a different story.
I agree with you. And you tell me that all the time. You're like, why don't you just do this?